All right. So it's a little bit after 9. These are the only people that I know that expressed interest to jump in and stuff. If somebody else joins in, they can definitely do that. But I think we'll go ahead and get started. So we're here to learn how to schedule a Zoom meeting, both within the program itself, but then also how we go about advertising that both on the Meetup site and Facebook. And so what I'm going to kind of show you is kind of the steps that I've gone through. It's a process that works for me. So anything I'm showing you here doesn't necessarily mean that you can't try something else, but at least this so far has not broken down too often. And so I will go ahead and kind of jump ahead or jump into this here. I'm going to share my screen, so you probably won't see me, but I think that's a good starting point. And so what we'll do is we'll go through how, first of all, to log into Zoom, how to schedule a meeting within the Zoom program, and then with the information that you get from the program, how you share that out to both Facebook and Meetup. So, so without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen. So like I was talking about, you would, when you open up Zoom and you log in, first of all, you will start off with this icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. That tells you that you're logged into the club's account. So if you got the little camera icon, you know that's that's in the club and not your own. You'll either land in the meetings here or on the home page, and we're on the home page right now. And what you want to do in order to schedule a meeting is come down here where it says schedule. So okay. Bear with me a second. I'm going
Before you move,
yeah.
How did you get here? Did you use a web app to get there?
So what I downloaded the Zoom program itself. I found that to be more stable or works better for me. They do have the browser version that you can do, but I think that I've found this to be more advantageous for my personal setup and everything. So I would say try it out and see what works for you on that. I don't know if that answers your question, Max, but
okay, that got me further than what I was.
Okay, so let me see what we do here now. I'm going to get into the Zoom. Save that. Okay, so let me, and what I'm doing is I'm just making snapshots, guys.
Pretty impressive, Greg. I'm really impressed.
Whatever, adapt and overcome, right? Is that the? Okay, so do you see this over here now? It says schedule meeting topic.
Okay, and you got into that by hitting the orange box. That says schedule a meeting, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's an orange box, but the one that says schedule meeting is what you want.
Oh, it's a blue box. I'm sorry.
The blue box right here. So yeah, you click that blue box and this is what comes up. And this is where you start to enter the basic information for your meeting. And you can call the topic or the title of the meeting whatever you want to. If you're scheduling a regular club meeting, oftentimes I'll put regular meeting and then the November 2020 or whatever works for you. I usually will jump into Meetup and to see what they've been called in the past, just to try to keep some kind of consistency. But once you've got that in, then you come down here to the date and times. So you start date, start time, end date, end time. So you can plug those in. On the meeting ID portion here, I just keep this as generate automatically. Okay. And I've never dealt with the personal meeting thing. So this works for me and has not let me down yet. The password, the Zoom kind of changed things here about a month ago. They used to be that they did not require a password. They do require a password now. Or you have to have a waiting room. We'll talk about waiting room in just a minute here. But you do have to have a password. And I like to keep things simple. It'll automatically generate a password here for you, but you can change it to whatever you want. And so I don't know if you've been noticing on any of the passwords that I've been putting up lately, like the password for today was 11032020. It just so happens that's today's date. Okay. If you were like a secret agent or something like that, you probably have already cracked my code. But I try to keep it as simple as possible. We could in the future decide upon a password that stays the same every single time. You don't have to have a different password for different meetings or anything like that. So maybe we decide to adopt a club password that everybody will know. And I don't think that it's a big deal to have a weak password for this, because it's not getting anybody into the back room of anything. If there is a nefarious character who does manage to hack into our meeting and stuff, well, maybe they'll just come away a little bit smarter. What I want to avoid, though, are challenges for people getting into the meeting. So that's the only thing. So that's enough on passwords. Any questions about passwords?
Actually, I didn't need a password. I just had to put my name in, and then it just took me right in.
Okay, and if that's, I generally am not logging in under my own credentials. I'm usually starting the meetings. So if you're seeing something different, then perfect. Was there another comment from somebody else?
Yeah, as long as I just click on the link from the, as long as I just click on the link, I've never had to enter a password. Yeah, okay. I think the passwords are, I don't know, but I think they're if you are calling in or some other method, but I've never, ever had to enter a password or a meeting ID.
I think I did. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I usually do. And when I set up meetings, people have to enter passwords.
Well, so we'll continue to, it's going to require a password, and with one exception. We'll talk about that in just a second here. So again, my recommendation is keep it simple, stupid, and everybody will be able to get in. Okay, moving on down here, there's some video options. Me as the host, I usually turn this on, but for participants, I usually leave it in the off position. I don't want to necessarily force people having their video turn on their own. I want them to make that decision, and certainly probably a lot of us do too. So I usually leave that in the off position. For audio, I usually leave this. This is the default setting for telephone and computer audio. So if you do have somebody who calls in on a cell phone, they can access the audio part. So just leave that as is. And again, that's a what do we call it? That is a default setting. And then this last part,
where would the phone number? What phone number would people call? Where is there even a phone number?
So I'll show you that in just a minute.
Okay.
And then down here, this calendar part here, it defaults to the Google Calendar. It may default to a different one depending on your settings and everything. We'll talk about the calendar piece here in just a second. But I never select anything here, and I'll show you kind of what happens. The last thing here is these advanced options. And so I'm going to get out of this one here, make it go away. I'm going to come up with a different photo for you.
Be right back.
What?
I'll be right back.
Be right. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you can see now advanced options is opened up, correct?
I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So before we couldn't see anything below this line. So everything above this was, audio, calendar. We just talked about those things. If you click the down button, it opens up these options here. And there are different things to choose and stuff. I'll go from the bottom up. Alternative hosts. It would seem like a great way to plug in, like your guest speaker or something like that. I've never gotten this thing to work yet, so just leave it blank. You can do that individually at the start of the meeting. The click automatically record meeting. I usually click that if I'm going to be recording this meeting. You may decide to do that when you start a meeting, and when it goes to record, make sure that you're recording that to your own computer and not to the cloud, because the cloud that they have, that Zoom has, is a very limited cloud space, and so we want to have control over it. I download it I've got a separate hard drive that it goes into and everything. They end up being fairly large files and stuff, and so once it's on my external hard drive, right now I've got lots of space for it and everything, but there's just kind of some considerations and everything. I wouldn't necessarily say that you need to record every single meeting, but where we've got the club meetings and stuff, I usually record that for people that want to watch them afterward.
Okay, Greg.
Do it automatically.
Greg, can you start recording during the Zoom meeting and not get, if you're half hour of people just chatting before they?
Yeah, you can, and on your control screen where you've got like your gallery view and everything on there, on the bottom, you'll have a list of different options. And so one of those is record. And when you hit record, it will give you a choice of either to the cloud or to your laptop. And then you're off to the races. So
Okay.
Max, did you have a question?
Same question. I got it straightened out.
Okay. So this box here, only authenticated users can sign into Zoom. I usually leave that blank. I've never had to use that. The mute participants on entry, I usually turn that on, and I think that's on by default. So again, that's just so that we don't have issues where people have lots of background noise or anything like that. It gets very distracting and stuff. So that usually is on by default, but if you want it deselected, you can click it off. This enable join before host, what that means is that if you're the host and the meeting's supposed to start at 9 o'clock and you're not on at 5 minutes till 9 or something like that, if you don't have that selected, people cannot get into the meeting and start talking amongst each other and everything. What they'll see is they'll just see a thing that says, waiting for the host to join the meeting. If you click this on, and oftentimes I do, because I can't predict the future, I may be tied up right up to the minute that the meeting starts or something like that. At least people can kind of get in and chit chat and everything, but just kind of think about that if it's something that you want. I don't think that it affects anything one way or the other. Probably nothing will get recorded though until after you are in the meeting itself, you the host, so which is fine. And then this last one is the one I was kind of alluding to. This can be problematic, this enable waiting room. And this is where Zoom says, okay, you either have to have a password or you have to click this box on that says enable waiting room. And what the waiting room is once you click on that link, if I had this enabled, once you click on that link and everything, it kind of puts you in an outside room. You don't have access to the meeting itself, and they're waiting for a host or a co-host to clear you through the door, essentially. And that I've found to be very challenging, both as a host and also as a participant sometimes, because you as the host, you've probably got a lot of things on your mind that are going on, you know, just prior to the meeting starting. And it's not blindly obvious that there's people in the waiting room. And so it's up to you to clear those people through. I mean, it's simple enough to do. You just click on them and everything, but it just adds a layer of complexity and everything that for our purposes, it's not necessary. And I've found that we can easily not see that somebody's sitting in the waiting room and, you know, they're missing all the content. And it's not that we're trying to be jerks and not let them in. It's just that we just didn't realize that they're sitting there. So I've always left this disabled, unchecked like it is here. And that actually is the default setting, at least on my setup. And so I would caution against using the enable waiting room just for that reason alone. Questions?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to then, let's see if I can bring this up. Can you all see this screen here? That says schedule down here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, probably not. So there was a blue schedule button. I'm going to click that. It was on the lower right-hand corner of that where we were entering all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. And
Oh, there you go. Okay.
okay, so I'm glad it did this, and you guys can see this where it says choose account to continue to Zoom. You all see that?
So now
Yes.
you've got to share screen live. So this is, now you're actually sharing screen again. This is pretty cool.
Okay, so, but you're seeing here, you've got this box in the middle, sign in with Google, choose an account to Zoom. You guys are seeing that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This happens every single time when you push the schedule button. When you filled out all that stuff, all the data and everything you need for your meeting, all of this this comes up automatically on a new window in your browser. This is completely useless. Okay, I'm not even sure why it comes up because. And then this challenged me for quite a while because it's like, well, why do I want to I've already logged in and everything. Why do I want to do this? So I just ignore this screen. In fact, I can't do it right now because it's hidden behind another menu. But I usually just close this browser window that pops open. You don't need it. Okay. So let me bring up. Let's see if I can get back to my.
Interesting.
Let's see here. Stand by. There we go. Okay, so you can see the main home page screen here, right? For the. Are you guys seeing that? You can see that. Okay. All right. So this is what it goes back to that, and now we've already scheduled our meeting and everything. Now we're going to go into this tab up here that says meetings. All right. So let me snap a photo of that and show you guys what that's going to look like. So stand by. Okay. Let me adjust my screen a little bit, my little snapshot. Check my white balance. That's a joke. You guys are supposed to laugh.
I did.
Okay.
By the way, Greg, that screen that you said you ignore, I have to sign into that before I get to what you just were showing us, the home screen. So mine goes the opposite direction.
Okay, and actually, I think you know, Banno, you bring up a very good point here, and I wrote myself a note to talk about this prior to getting too far down the road. So the account that we're using is a paid account.
Okay.
But it only, look, we went for as cheap as we could possibly get, and it serves our purposes, but we're only allowed one person signed on at a time, okay? And so what has happened in the past is I may, or somebody else may be conducting a meeting, and one of us, and there's just a very small number of us that have login rights to the Club Zoom account. One of us will inadvertently go in and log in, and when you do that, you will kick out the person that was already logged in. So if all you were doing was just in there poking around or trying to schedule a meeting, that's fine. But you could imagine how that would disrupt a regular like club meeting if we're have a speaker and everything, and one of us decided to log in as, you know, the Salem Digital Photo Group account. It's going to kick everybody off. So, having said that, before I go and log in on the group's Zoom meeting account, I usually take a look at the meetup page to make sure that there is not a meeting going on already, like a critique or you know, a Nikon users forum or something like that. I just want to make sure I'm not going to interrupt a meeting. And then if there's no meetings, then usually it's probably safe to get on. But just kind of keep that in mind. And then the other thing too is when you are done, just try to remember to log yourself out. And again, it won't prevent somebody from logging in, but it just, you know, it's kind of a nice thing to do. So, okay. So what I did is I made a snapshot, and hopefully you can see it here now. This is the screen that comes up when you click the meetings tab at the top up here. You've got all the meetings that are already scheduled on the left-hand side. We just created this one here, the Salem Digital Photo Group Zoom. And information about the meeting is over here on the right-hand side. So let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to get to the information that you're asking about, Madeline.
So this is within Zoom itself.
This is within the Zoom application itself. All right, so I'm going to make another snapshot. I should have actually done this way first time instead of doing this twice. So stand by, please. Okay. So what I did is I clicked on the meeting information for this, and that was on the right-hand side here. Where it says hide meeting, you could say show meeting, but when you open up the meeting information, this is the meat and potatoes right here of what we need in order to now share the meeting information onto our Facebook and Meetup pages.
And this is automatically generated?
This is all automatically generated. And
wait a minute, Greg, what did it show before? It just said meeting information.
Yeah, it was a blank screen. I'll see if I can pop up. All right, can you see this now?
Yeah. Yes, show meeting information.
Show meeting information. If you click on that link, it will come up with this information.
Okay.
Okay. And so all of the information here is what is pertinent, and some of it's more important than others. At the top here, it says Salem Digital Photo Group. That's the account name, so that part is always generated, is inviting you to a scheduled Zoom meeting. So this part never changes. And then the topic and time, it's just going to parrot what we put in when we created the meeting ourselves. So we didn't change the name of the topic that was already generating there, but if we'd instead had put in, Sony Roundtable, this would say Sony Roundtable up here. And then the time that we had selected as far as the start time and date, that would be here as well. Okay. Below it is now the join Zoom meeting. It is this URL that we need. And be careful, because I have screwed this up a couple of times. Sometimes this URL gets chopped off like right here, and the rest of it is on the line down below here. And I've gone and only copied the top row and not both the top and first and second row of it. So make sure that you're capturing the entire URL. Okay, so we'll need HTTPS all the way down to the 09 here. And this URL changes for every meeting. Additional information on here before we move on. Meeting ID, so if somebody had their Zoom app open, they could type in this number here. That's a unique number. And maybe that's where the passcode comes in. This is the password that was, I didn't change the password, so this is why it's not, my normal convention. But that information is there. Madeline, you were asking about where to call, and that's what this information all here is. Don't ask me about how you use that information. I haven't a clue.
I don't know where Germantown is either, but that's okay.
Yeah. I've never tried dialing in, so I'm not sure how this works. I think Germantown is.
Doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
Probably.
And if you're looking for a local number, so I guess these are all like long distance numbers. I guess you could follow that line, but again, that's never come up. Again, the key stuff is this entire URL and just remembering what the passcode is.
And you said you copy that?
I do. So, and I copy it a couple of different ways. Within both Meetup and Facebook, there is a single line where you put in the URL. And so I will copy just specifically the URL to paste in there. And then Facebook and Meetup will create, kind of their own link and everything. In the description of the actual meeting that we're doing, after I've gone in and kind of described, what it is the meeting's going to be, I will, below that, I will copy, and I call it complete Zoom information. I'll copy that entire box of stuff here, and I just copy and paste that into the description. Again, I don't know how people are choosing to jump on. I don't know if they're using a phone. And that's the only reason I would include this information.
Well, it's interesting, Greg, because if I get a notice through AOL, I can't use the URL. I have to go into Zoom and enter the meeting number and the password. If I do it through Gmail, I can use the URL and just link in.
And maybe that's an AOL
different
thing.
Emails as well. It's different email systems as well, whether they link or not.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, I'm not the person who's skookum on those sorts of things. I guess I know kind of for the majority of everybody, it's this link is what they're using. And we should ask at a meeting sometime is if anybody is dialing in, okay, how are we doing so far?
Barbara dials in occasionally.
So Barbara does? Okay.
Yeah.
Now she usually calls to figure out how to get into the link. She dials into me, I think. But yeah, you're right.
So how does the speaker from Dubai dial in?
He'll come in on the URL.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll just be internet for him. He's not dialing in.
Yeah. So this is the point where I don't close the application down or anything like that, because I mean it may need to come back to it, but I've pretty much have moved on now to what I need for building out the Facebook and Meetup parts. So that's why I'm asking, are we good at this point here? Looks like I'm getting nods and everything. Okay, so I'm going to tidy up a little bit here.
All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a sweater. I'm cold.
Yeah, let's take a couple minutes. I'm going to see if I can close some of these. Delete. I shouldn't have deleted that. Now I'm going to regret it, but we can come back to it.
It looks pretty simple and straightforward.
It really is. Once you've done one or two, it's not too challenging. The challenging part is just my own idiotic stuff that I do, where I screw up the, like I won't remember to copy the correct URL into the announcement and everything, and so that's been my challenge for a long time, is just getting myself to stop making stupid mistakes like that.
My
Okay.
problem was getting
It's always
logged in the
sending out
first.
an invitation, setting up the meeting, but then figuring out how to send out their invitation.
Yeah. Okay. So you should be seeing my browser window now, and we're on the Meetup page.
Correct.
Thumbs up. Everybody good? Okay. All right. So so this is a job that will require you to have administrative rights, and I think that everybody in this meeting has that. And this is something where you all should be able to follow along now. So
Wait a minute,
we,
how would I know if I have administrative rights or how to use them?
well, I'll show you right now.
Okay.
So, and we can find out. So where I want to go, even though we show, you know, our upcoming events and everything, where you want to go, you want to start off with is over here in the events tab. And so I'll click that. And I try to not recreate things, okay? And especially when I know something that works, I like to keep some sort of regularity about it and everything. And so I've got an upcoming meeting here. We've already got a landing page for it right here. This is our meeting, Madeline, that's coming up.
Right.
And so we can edit this thing. It's just kind of a placeholder right now, but we can edit that, and I'll show you how to do that. The next thing that we want to do, though, is I want to copy information from the previous meeting to use as a template, and that's one of the ways that I'm able to not screw this up royally every single time. So what I generally do is I come up here to where it says past meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I actually open that in a separate tab. So I'll right click it and I'll open that link into a separate tab. And so I can refer back and forth to it. So on my first tab over here, this is where we started. Here's my past events tab. And I'm going to scroll down to when our last monthly meeting was. I think it's going to let me. There it goes. And because I know that one went well, or at least it managed well and everything. And I want to try to copy a lot of the same information from here into the new meeting. And so you should see over here where it says manage, come down and, oh, it's not going to let us manage it from that standpoint. Sorry, let me back up. All of a sudden, that's weird. Okay. So you can't manage anything on this, but what I do is I just click on the event itself and it opens it up. Okay. And what I'm looking for here to copy is a lot of the details here. I'm not going to copy the date and time or anything like that. The program, when we go in to schedule a new meeting, is going to ask me all of that same questions and stuff. But what I want to try and do is use the previous meeting's details as kind of a template. And what I have up here, just so you can see how this goes, is we have I lead off with a kind of a description of what's the meeting going to be about. And I'm getting background noise from somebody. So I've got the kind of introduction of what the meeting is going to be about. I do ask the speaker if they can provide me a little bit of language, and so they'll send that to me, and that's great to put in there. I put in that this will be an online Zoom link. Here's the link, and that's, remember I said, okay, that's, you know, where we're going to, I copied that, just the URL, only the URL I copied, and we will paste that in, and I'll show you how we do that in just a minute. The password. I tried to give them kind of a rundown of what the schedule will look like. The room opens up at 6:30 p.m. Actual meeting starts at 7. You know, 7 o'clock it's welcome and announcements, and then 7:15 is speaker is Laura Tessler. And then the last part is I just copy this entire, or I grab, you know, that information that is generated from the Zoom app. This is all the same stuff right here. And so I put Zoom meeting complete details are down here. So what I do though is I just copy this whole thing. Like so. Control C. And then I'm going to come back to our upcoming events. And this one here, this monthly meeting, I'm going to manage that. And here I can edit the event. By the way, if you wanted to start a whole, if it wasn't a you know, a pre-existing like a regular monthly meeting, like this Nikon Roundtable is a good example, or something like that, a one-off thing, you could come up here to where it says create event. In fact, maybe we'll just pop in there real quick.
When I create a new event, I always go through the calendar first, because that's easier for me to see what's going on and figure out exactly where I want to be.
Perfect. It's also
that step. Wait a minute, can you go back one? I just lost you getting. Create event wasn't under manage, or is on, it can't be, it's, I'm sorry.
I'll back it up.
Yeah, please. Okay. How did you get to create event?
I'm getting there. I just, okay. So we are in the events section of Meetup.
Right.
And at the top up here, you should see create event and manage group. But create event is kind of what you're aiming for.
And what I was saying is, in instead of clicking the create event button, I'll click the calendar button and go in through there. It's two ways to do the same thing, but I find that's easier for me.
Okay. Yeah, a couple different ways to do it. The
can you then just click on a date and then get back to create event? What happens if you click the calendar first?
so right here,
Okay.
that's what you're talking about, Max.
Right. And that helps me if I'm trying to do a special thing. I can see where everything else is falling a lot more conveniently than scrolling down the list and trying to figure out in my head where they fall.
True. No, I like this view. The other thing that this is good for is if you're going to create a one-off event, it's typically bad form to schedule an event on top of another already scheduled event. And that's happened a couple of times. For monthly meetings and stuff, that's usually never a concern.
Sometimes it's necessary if you've got, like you're going to go cover a community event when we used to have community events. I mean, we don't control the scheduling of when, the parade is in Kaiser or whatever it is you're looking for. So sometimes you have to double up, but generally, right, we try and avoid it.
Yeah, and that's my point, is that we don't want to inadvertently jump on and schedule something over the top of some other event. So this is kind of a good view to look at.
So if you wanted to, wait a minute, if you wanted to schedule an event, you would just click on a date?
So let me get to that point. All right. So if we wanted to create a new event, and you could do it from the calendar view, I suppose, as well, is see the little plus sign that pops up here. I'm assuming that if I click that, it's going to create an event for you.
Okay.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
So either
any date you landed on. Okay.
So either clicking on the create event tab at the very top of the screen, or going into the calendar view and clicking like we just did here, you're going to get to the same view that you see here. And a lot of this is going to look very similar to what we had just put into the Zoom meeting app, but we're going to want a title if one hasn't already been established for it. Date and time. You can select a certain time period that the meeting is going to run, so like 2 hours or 2.5 hours or something like that. Or if you want a little bit more control, you can specify a different end time. Okay. The featured photo, this upload photo, I will just tell you right now that this can be a challenge because they have such a wackadoo aspect ratio here. I actually had to go in, and there's 2 meetings that I use the same photo for. Both the regular monthly meeting is our camera icon, and the critique is a different icon that I kind of built out, and that just kind of keeps those icons the same. But if you are going to upload a photo in here, you've got to try to make it fit within this 1200 by 675, which doesn't usually match most. It's a very wide, panoramic almost scene. I'm not sure why they're so set on doing that, but just be aware of that. You can toss it in there and
even when you do match it, the interface is extraordinarily bulky, and I find that it takes more time to get it to accept my photo than it does to set up everything else.
Yeah, and that's why I've decided for the regular monthly meetings and the critiques, I've got 2 canned photos, one for each of those that I use, And yeah, it's not great. But anyway, you can either choose to put one in there or not to. I recommend trying to get a photo in there. I think that the photos, especially on Facebook and everything, tend to get more notice than not photos. So just keep that in mind. And then continue to scroll down. This is the description part. And remember, I'm going to pop back over to our past meeting. I copied that whole thing here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to drop it in here where it says description, hit Control V, and there. Now, this is where I get myself into trouble, is I've done what I want. I want a nice template and everything, and then I go off and do something else, and I forget that I haven't changed the URL, or I haven't changed the speaker information or something like that. So don't do that. But I like having a template that works for me, and I can come in here and edit this. You can also drop this whole thing into a Word document and get it all figured out on Word, and then drop it in here too. That'll work as well. But again, some of the key things that you're going to want to make sure that you change are the URL, make sure it's all complete and everything.
So
all of your, yeah.
You have your Zoom meeting screen open at the same time, so you can copy from there and paste in here.
I do.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're working, yeah, because otherwise, how would you copy all of this stuff back and forth? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, and you should be able to get back into that screen, no problem.
Right, at any time, right? Because it's one of the scheduled meetings, so it should be easy to get into. Okay.
Exactly. And so we'll go along and you know, add in all the pertinent details and everything. I generally, I mean, I've copied this entire thing here about the Zoom meeting details. All of actually, it starts here. This is from that Zoom app and everything. So I will do like a separate copy of that entire piece there that comes from the Zoom app, and then replace all of this in here in case any of these numbers change. I don't know if they do or not. I know that the meeting ID will change and stuff, but
don't you also put this URL someplace towards the top? Because I don't remember clicking on to read all the details to link in.
no, I do, and that's coming up.
Okay.
So we're just at the description part right here.
Okay.
And so anyway, just, you know, proofread, and maybe it's, you know, and I think I've started to do this, is I build all of this stuff within Word first,
Okay.
just to kind of, you know, give me some editing options before I actually jump into here. So location. Now, if we are doing this at an actual physical location or something like that, this is sometimes handy. You can put in a, so I think, yeah, so if you start typing in Scottish Rite, it'll come up with the Scottish Rite Center. And those are kind of nice. You know, once we do get to visit and do stuff in general, it will come up with a location that will pop up on people's phones and also their computers, so that they can kind of get an idea as to where it's located and stuff. But right now we're not doing the in-person stuff, so I just click here and make this an online event. And then
if you're doing a location, sometimes I've found that it isn't very accurate in telling people where to go, particularly if it's a field event. So you really have to watch that and make sure it's sending people to the right place.
Good point.
Yeah, check to make sure it's not sending them to, you know, underneath a dam or something like that. So, so if you, and what we should be doing right now in most cases is clicking this, make this an online event, and it will open up this window. And again, I've copied that entire, oops, you know what? I almost screwed that up. You're going to copy that entire URL And I'm just going to paste that bad boy right there. And dang it, it still picked up that password. So again, check your work. And almost done with this one here. Hosts, your name is going to be here. If you want to add a co-host,
Yeah,
it'll come up.
scroll down and see if Madeline's on the list. That'll tell you whether she's an organizer.
Yep, she's a co-organizer.
Okay.
So I'll put her on there. And then down here, these optional settings. For online meetings, I'm usually leaving all of these off. Sometimes, let me see, this one here, for some reason, would occasionally get clicked on, and that would create drama. And so I usually leave that clicked off. For our online meetings and everything, none of these really need to be clicked on. People are able to, multiple people can copy that URL and log in and watch. They don't have to share a screen or something like that. So, so that's it. And then, what I like to do is, sometimes I'll save this as a draft. And so you'll see, I'll show you here. Let me go back. Let's just save it as a draft. Sorry, there was a problem editing this event. Probably it's not happy because I need a title here. This is a test. I'll just leave it like that. I don't care. Save as a draft. And it brings us back to our events page.
Okay.
And you'll see here again, they have them broken up by upcoming, past, and then drafts. So if you want to start on putting an event together and everything, but you don't have all the information, you're not ready to go live with it and stuff, this is kind of a handy thing to do. You can come back to it and everything. And I suspect everybody who has login rights as far as an administrator would be able to get in there and see the drafts and everything.
Okay,
It
question.
also helps if you're cooperating with a second organizer. One person could get it so far, put it in drafts, then the other person can pick it up.
Oh, good idea. How do I log in as an organizer? I mean,
You do just by your login. I've already made you, or Matt made you an organizer, so nothing's changed as far as your login is concerned for Meetup. Just by us throwing a switch, poof, okay. You're an organizer.
So you guys did that.
I'm going
to have to go at 10:30. I didn't realize this would go so long. So just to let you guys know, I can stay another 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
But Greg, can you and I, and maybe everybody again, if we want to do this, maybe even tomorrow, and set up the meeting for Brian and actually get that done?
Yeah, I won't be able to do that tomorrow. I'm leaving.
What about if I try it with a draft, and then? What's that? If I try creating it as a draft.
Yeah.
So yeah. I could try doing the Zoom meeting, and you'll send me the information to sign on to the Zoom account.
Yes.
I can try setting up a meeting tomorrow morning. I'll have time to do that. Can set it up as a draft and then let everybody know it's a draft.
That sounds good. And I'll have time during the day tomorrow to jump in there.
I'll be around all day tomorrow, and being that there's difficulty sharing this Zoom screen while you're on a Zoom meeting, maybe we could do a Skype call and share screen from Skype and get the Zoom meeting up.
I want to address that here in a second, but go ahead.
Okay, so let's charge ahead. I want to get through. We're almost at the end here as far as the meetup part, and hopefully we'll get you out of here on time. So anyway, to go back in to a draft, you just click the event itself. It's going to take you back to what you had already put in. and that's where, you know, you can go in and edit anything. The last part here is there is a, oops, let me see here. If I want to go back to edit, you just click the edit button. There's a preview, so you can kind of, you know, take a look at to see what this is going to look like, you know, to the regular person and everything, just kind of judge it and stuff. Oftentimes I will check the URL myself by clicking on it to make sure that it works and stuff. And then the last thing, I'm not going to click this because I don't want to send this out, but if you hit the publish, it will then email this upcoming meeting to all of the members. Okay, and so that's one way to get that out. Yeah, Matt.
Okay.
It'll ask if you want to announce it.
Oh, okay. Publish. Yeah, you hit publish. You're right. So publish will post this to the main regular meetup page as a new event. Boy, I hate this program. Because you can't get back to your main page very easily. But it will also, like Matt was saying, it will ask you if you want to announce it. And I usually click yes so that the word gets out. Okay.
All right, one more thing, Greg, before we jump off this. If you get a description from Brian today, can you forward it to me so I can play with it for the
Yeah, absolutely.
He said he would get in touch with you today, hopefully.
Okay, so that's the meetup, and that's pretty much all the work you need to do on the meetup. The other thing is the Facebook page, and with that, we go into our normal SDPG discussion group. And what we're looking to do here, guys, is again go over to events. We'll click events, and a lot of this is going to seem repetitive and stuff. So I'm just going to try to burn through this. And we have this little icon here. It says create event, and it's just going to walk you through it. So you've got a choice, an online video chat with messenger rooms. That's usually what we're clicking, as opposed to an in-person event. Okay, so I click on the online part there. Event name, test event. We put in the dates. Pardon me if I'm going a little quickly. I just want to try to put a time. So we're going to be at just after midnight. So be good to see you guys there. Of course, pick a date or time that's after when it started. It'll tell you if you picked a date or time that's end date after. This part I don't think ever changes. Yeah. So we hit the next. Now it's going to give you three options here. Is this going to be a Facebook Live event, external link, or other? And for us, because we're using a Zoom URL, you're going to click the external link. And again, that's where we're going to paste in our URL minus the password, Greg, because nobody cares about the password. It'll screw it up too. Hit next. Upload a cover photo. Again, now Facebook's much easier with photos and stuff, but I usually use the same photo that I'm using for the meeting that's on the meetup site. You can choose whatever you want. And so I'm going to leave that. Well, I'll just show you what I've got here. We'll do it quickly. And it's this guy here. So that goes in there. And then down here under the description, what I generally do is I just go back, Madeline, back to my
Right. Either your Word document or that you took this from. Or from.
Yeah, exactly. And I just copy and paste that entire thing in here. And and then hit save.
Got it. Okay.